MSW Media.
So yeah, now it's clean up on aisle 45 time. And for a long while yet, it is going to be clean up on aisle 45.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 222 of Clean Up on Aisle 45. It's Wednesday, April 23rd, 2025. I'm Allison Gill.
Hey, G, what's up? It's Harry Dunn here. Thanks to everybody who came out to the bonus Zoom happy hour on Friday. That was great. And y'all had some really good questions. It was a great conversation. Almost sort of, we had to tell, hey, y'all stop with the questions. We got to get everybody fit in. But y'all are the best, and we love talking with you all. So that was great.
Yeah, that was fun. Well, we'll all let you know when the next one is. So thanks to our patrons. And if you'd like to join us on those calls, all you have to do is become a patron at patreon.com/aisle45pod. That's AISLE 45POD. And speaking of that, thanks to our new members, Marta F., Girl Wonder 23, Dawn, Jan, and Milagros Jorge. Thank you so much for signing up to become a patron. You make this show happen. You're the best. So, Harry, we have a lot to cover today, including some schadenfreude about the Pillowman. So that's what he cries and says he's broke again. Can't find the Pillowman. Yeah, he's not doing well. So we'll give you the tea on Mike Lindell. And the Chicago City Council has passed a resolution not to hire anyone that participated in January 6th in the attack on the Capitol, which is awesome. That's in addition to what Governor Pritzker has done statewide. Plus, we have a top Trump housing official calling for a criminal investigation into Leticia James, the New York Attorney General, which is just going to be embarrassing for them.
Yeah, of course it's going to be embarrassing. Anything they do, it's always embarrassing. But we'll also talk about the 37 death row inmates who had their sentences commuted by former President Joe Biden are suing the Trump administration over its plans to send them to supermax prison. Plus, Pete Hegseth, his days as Secretary of Defense are numbered as Signalgate 2.0 is leaked. AG, where you want to start? We got a lot of choices. Where you want to start today?
So many to choose from. Sometimes I wonder if we should spin a wheel and decide on what story we cover. So, you know what? Let's start with some good news. Let's start with the Chicago City Council's new resolution. Okay. And this reporting comes from Chicago's very own WGN9. Alders on Wednesday approved a resolution that calls on the city's Human Resources Department to disqualify any participant of the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol from employment with the city. They say these individuals really made it very clear they did not want to accept the results of the election. That's Mayor Brandon Johnson, and he said that at his post-council press conference. He went on to say, I do believe that as a city, we do have to draw the line. We have to set a standard for how we work to continue to do the things that are necessary to make sure that our democracy continues to evolve. And this makes sense. If you want to overthrow the government, you shouldn't work for the government, be it city, county, state, or federal, right? Now, the vote was 43-3 with Alderman Nicholas Sposato from the 38th Ward, Anthony Napolitano from the 41st Ward, and James Gardner from the 45th Ward voting against the measure, but you lose. Womp womp.
Yeah, 43-3. Alderman Gil Villegas, 36th Ward, who previously served in the U.S. Marine Corps, said that those who broke into the Capitol were criminals who assaulted police officers, vandalized public property, and threatened the lives of lawmakers. Those who participated in this attack, those that encouraged it, and those who continue to spread falsehood. This is one of the things that they continue to spread the falsehoods to justify it must be held accountable, he said. You should not be able to work for the same government that you are attempting to overthrow.
Okay. So Gil agrees with me.
Yeah, I think we all do. Alderman Bill Conway, the 34th Ward, a U.S. Navy reservist who was acting as a senior intelligence director of the U.S. European Command during the attack, agreed. I will only say that it is not a day or night I would like to repeat, and I say that on behalf of myself, our military, and our country, he said.
Yeah, that is definitely not a day anybody would like to repeat. It's interesting. They call out the aldermen who are from the Marine Corps and the Navy who were like, yeah, no, they shouldn't be hired.
Absolutely.
And as I said in the intro, Governor J.B. Pritzker took similar action at the state level earlier this year on January 31st. He blocked pardoned Capitol insurrectionists from serving in local government positions, citing a state law. He said, these rioters were accused or convicted of a combination of felonies and misdemeanors, including but not limited to violence against law enforcement officers, threats against members of Congress, destruction of federal property, and many other crimes. These crimes threatened public safety as members of Congress, staff, and other workers who were forced to hide from the violence for hours, he said. And he went on to say, I'm committed to building a state workforce that upholds our shared values and delivers results for the people of Illinois. Our state workforce must reflect the values of Illinois and demonstrate honesty, integrity, loyalty to serving the taxpayers, right? So that was a decision he made on January 31st. So it stands to reason that, the city council would do this in Chicago as well. And the Chicago Sun-Times noted that more than 50 Illinoisans faced January 6th charges, including Chicago police officer Carol Chwiasuk, who was later fired from her position. So this is really good news. And I'm really glad that not just the governor did this in January, but now the city council, 43-3, is doing it in Chicago.
And it may seem small when people's like, 50 people. Well, how many of those 50 people are going to go work for the government anyway? I mean, you know what? I mean, maybe not, but I think it sends the right message. It sends a statement.
That's it.
That's what this is about. This isn't about targeting one of those individuals, or like I said, if it's 50 people, or a little bit more than 50, I believe that the Chicago Sun-Times is noting. But it sends the message that if you're going to attack and try to overthrow the government, then you damn sure shouldn't be able to work for it. At least on the state level and in the city level now in Chicago, we're still working on that thing with the federal things where insurrectionists are running the government now, and it kind of sucks. So that's where we are now. Good job, Chicago.
Yeah, exactly. And I also think it speaks volumes that pretty much every military member on the city council of the Aldermen's voted for this resolution too, right? Because they understand the consequences and the impact of attacking law enforcement and attacking the rule of law, and that those people don't have the honesty and integrity, as J.B. Pritzker said, to be able to work for the government. And it reminds me a lot of, when we talked about, Pete Hegseth wanting to ban transgender troops from the military, saying that if you're transgender, that means that you are dishonest and unreliable. It's not transgender people that are dishonest and unreliable and bad people, or just have this sort of innate sense of dishonesty. It's the people who attacked the Capitol on January 6th.
Those are the people that he's talking to. Right. And you're 100% right. And, another thing, listen, people are allowed to believe what they want. They can believe the election was stolen. Like they can believe that listen, I believe that I don't think anybody's saying that people are allowed to have those beliefs and you're not persecuted for those beliefs. What you are persecuted for is acting on them and going to go attempt to overthrow the government. So some things, you can believe what you want, but you can't act on it. And when actions turn into criminal, that's when we get what we got on January 6th. So,
yeah. And I'm wondering if we'll see some sort of a lawsuit from one of the 50 Illinoisans who wants to work for the city or the state to be like, you are discriminating against me based on my First Amendment rights. Yeah. But attacking the Capitol and committing crimes is not covered by the First Amendment.
At all.
I don't think that any lawsuit like that would get very far. And so if these guys are calling up, their local lawyers to sue because they can't be considered for a job with the city of Chicago or the state of Illinois, I imagine the lawyers are probably like, you don't have a case here. It's not, no one's preventing you. Like, this doesn't say we won't hire you if you think the 2020 election was stolen. They're saying, correct, we won't hire you if you attacked the Capitol and attacked police officers and committed crimes. And I think that they're allowed to do that. They wouldn't, like you said, they wouldn't be allowed to say you can't work here if you think the 2020 election was stolen. But that's what Jack Smith said in his January 6th indictment of Donald Trump. He said, these aren't charges against you for lying about the election. These are charges for willfully and knowingly using those lies to commit fraud, which is not covered by the First Amendment. And I imagine that good luck if you're one of those 50 Illinoisans trying to find a lawyer that would actually take this to court. But maybe somebody will, and if they do, we'll cover it here. I was just about to say,
you know what? They look. I mean, as crazy and frivolous times are now, I mean, I don't know.
I think any lawyer willing to take that case is already working for the Department of Justice and wouldn't be allowed
I'm about to say he's already in, right? I'm about to say. Well, Rudy can't take it. He's already barred.
Rudy, so he's disbarred.
Disbarred. I mean, not barred. Disbarred. So I don't see much of resistance coming out of it from either side.
Yeah. But we'll see. We'll cover it if they do.
Good job, Chicago.
Yeah, very good job. All right, everybody, we've got a lot more news to get to, including stuff about Pete Hegseth, but we have to take a quick break, so stick around. We'll be right back.
All right. Welcome back, y'all. Pete Hegseth again is in the news. All right. Pete Hegseth is in the news again, and he appears to be in some boiling hot water. From NPR, the White House has begun the process of looking for a new leader at the Pentagon to replace Pete Hegseth. According to a U.S. official who was not authorized to speak publicly, this comes as Hegseth is again mired in controversy over sharing military operational details in a group chat, Signal to be specific. The defense secretary is under fire after revelations that he shared classified information in a group chat with his wife, brother, and lawyer, according to the official.
Yeah, this is Signalgate 2.0, everybody.
Oh, Pete.
The source said that Hegseth used the Signal messaging app on his personal smartphone, not his government smartphone, detailing minute-by-minute classified information about airstrikes on Houthi targets in Yemen. This is same stuff that they were talking about in the Houthi small group that the Atlantic guy was accidentally added to. It happened at about the same time in March that Hegseth shared similar details with top White House aides in a different Signal chat group that accidentally included a journalist. That leak, hours before airstrikes hit, could have endangered U.S. pilots. It actually did endanger U.S. pilots. We're just very fortunate no one got hurt. If that information about the timing of strikes was intercepted by adversaries. Already, the Houthis have twice shot down American Predator drones. And I'll say here, that's $30 million a piece. Those Predator
it's not cheap.
drones.
It's not cheap.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt denied that there's any effort to replace Hegseth, posting on Twitter that the president stands strongly behind him. Everything is so strongly, right?
Strongly.
Except for people who talk to him, always have tears in their eyes.
Exactly.
Speaking to reporters at the White House, Trump backed Hegseth and said concerns over the Signal chats were a, quote, waste of time.
Quote, he's doing a great job. Ask the Houthis how he's doing,
Jesus.
Trump said. Jesus. Unbelievable. Hegseth had denied wrongdoing at an Easter egg event. Did anybody see that when he was, he was so, somebody said, hey, watch this without sound. And you can see and go back and watch the clip. It's insane. But he denied wrongdoing at the White House Easter egg roll earlier Monday. This is what the media does. They take anonymous sources from a disgruntled former employees, and then they try to slash and burn people, ruin their reputation. It's not going to work with me, he said.
Oh, bro, you ruined your reputation.
He did
how
this.
many fucking events how many effing events have you been carried out of because you were drunk beyond repair?
Unbelievable. Hegseth was likely referring to 4 senior advisors who left the Pentagon abruptly last week. Former Defense Department spokesperson John Ulliott, is that right? Ulliott resigned. He resigned and then published an opinion piece calling the past month at the Pentagon a full-blown meltdown of infighting that is hurting President Trump.
Oh, hurting President Trump. How about hurting
the American
rest
people?
Of us?
I'm about to say in the military,
Yeah, poor Trump. Poor our pilots who could have been killed.
Yeah.
3 other Pentagon advisors, Dan Caldwell, Colin Carroll, and Dan Selnick, were escorted. They were walked out of the Pentagon and accused of leaking information to the press. The 3 of them then put on a joint statement on Twitter calling their dismissal unconscionable and saying they have not been told what they stand accused of leaking. Quote, all three of us served our country honorably in uniform. For two of us, this included deployments in the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. And based on our collective service, we understand the importance of information security and worked every day to protect it. So even close pals of Hegseth who were in the military were like, bro, step too far. They have all the tea, by the way. And I imagine
all of it.
By the time you're hearing this podcast, maybe even more will have come out.
Yeah, I'm sure it will be. No, like I would bet my lunch money on that. Caldwell and Selnick are longtime associates of Hegseth who worked with him at Concerned Veterans for America, a right-leaning policy group. New Hampshire Senator Jeanine Shaheen, a Democrat on the Armed Services Committee, said in a statement that Hegseth should accept responsibility. But
should be taken completely out of his role.
I'm about to say, wait a minute. And her statement goes on, but we must not forget that the ultimate responsibility here lies with the president for selecting a former weekend TV host without any experience, successfully leading a large and complex organization to run our government's biggest department and make life and death decisions for our military and country, she said.
Yeah. And hey, some breaking news, actually, as we're recording this on Tuesday. Check this out from NBC, from Courtney Kube and Gordon Lubold. Minutes before U.S. fighter jets took off to begin strikes against Houthi rebels in Yemen, Army General Michael Eric Kurilla, who leads U.S. CENTCOM, that's Central Command, used a secure U.S. government system to send detailed information about the operations to Hegseth. The material Kurilla sent included details about when U.S. fighters would take off and when they would hit their targets. Details that could, if they fell into the wrong hands, put the pilots in grave danger and the fighters as well. But he was doing exactly what he was supposed to, providing the Secretary of Defense, his superior, with information he needed to know and using a system specifically designed to safely transmit sensitive, classified information. But then Hegseth used his personal phone to send the same information Kurilla had given him to at least 2 group text chats on the Signal messaging app. That's according to 3 U.S. officials. So the information that about the Houthi attacks that Hegseth sent to the PC small Houthi group that included the Atlantic journalist Jeffrey Goldberg, and that he sent to on his private phone to his wife and his brother and like 12 other people, he got that from a classified communication system from a general at CENTCOM. That's insane.
Insane. But I just want to just jump back into this, take a step back about the surface level of this. Obviously it's bad, we're not even talking about endangering people's lives. Let's just talk about the simplicity of a man that he is, that he feels all big and tough, that he's got these war plans and he's, look, honey, look what I'm doing at work today. Like, we're bombing people and it's real. And he's showing his brother, and like, what type of, it's unbelievable that he feels like he has to portray this image of him being a tough guy. And that's all that he is, a pretend tough guy. I don't have any respect for him. The way he treats people, the reports of him groping women or making sexually suggestive remarks to them, drunk and having to carry it out of events. I still go back for every single person in the Senate that confirmed him. I believe that they own this mess as much as Hegseth and obviously Trump does, because they stamped their approval on it. And at what point can we say, hey, your judgment can no longer be accepted?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And this is going to, remember, it's so funny because in that story, and just a few minutes ago, I said, these guys have all the tea and we're going to hear some more. This is some of the more. It's just come out because that was from yesterday and from Monday when I wrote the script. And this is coming out Tuesday as we record the show. This story from NBC goes on to say that in all, according to the 2 sources, less than 10 minutes elapsed between Kurilla's giving Hegseth the information and Hegseth sending it to the 2 group chats. Again, one of which included other cabinet level officials and their designees, and inadvertently the editor of the Atlantic magazine. The other group included his wife, his brother, his attorney, and some of his aides. Those aides, by the way, are the 4 people who are spilling all the tea, I think. And Hegseth shared the information. This goes on from NBC. on Signal, even though NBC News has reported an aide warned him in the days beforehand to be careful not to share sensitive information on unsecure communication systems before the Yemeni strikes. And that's according to 2 sources with knowledge of the matter. Again, these sources have to be these guys that were walked out of the Pentagon, right?
It's so too coincidental that it's now, and it has to be.
Yeah, yesterday I was like, more's going to come out, and Tuesday more came out, and that's what I'm reading to you. So
I don't even think we're finished yet.
No, there's going to be more, but this is pretty significant that this came from a classified system, from an Army general at CENTCOM, and his name is Michael Eric Kurilla. Oh boy. We're going to keep our eye on this. Yeah. Again, I don't think Hegseth is long for this role, which I want to be very happy about if he gets ousted, but I am simultaneously scared of who could possibly replace him.
Obviously that, but as long as he's there, he's a threat to the security and the safety of our men and women in the service. So
yeah, and who's gonna hold him legally accountable? Nobody. Pam Bondi's not going to go after him.
Of course not.
Who would be the one that would have to? Now, again, statute of limitations is 5 years. If we happen to have enough time to get a new attorney general and a new president with a new attorney general, they wouldn't come in until 2029. It would only leave, a very short window of time to try to get an indictment filed on this. So like 900 things would have to happen in perfect order for any legal accountability to happen. But I think political accountability is important, especially leading up to the 2026 midterms.
Completely agree. So, well, like you said, we'll just keep our eyes on this, keep our ears glued to our Signal chat, and maybe we'll be lucky enough to get some plans sent to us by accident one day. So,
just drop me accidentally into a Signal chat. That'd be great.
There you go.
All right, we're going to talk about probably one of the dumbest things anyone's ever done, trying to go after Leticia James. We'll talk about that after this quick break. Stick around. We'll be right back. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. I want to take a minute to thank some of our Hall of Fame sustaining members. You can sign up again, patreon.com/aisle45pod. Thanks to our Hall of Famer, Starlanus. The future is not looking bright. Jens Eilstrup Rasmussen. Laura Saba. Democracy cannot survive on regulated capitalism. Yes, Clover's Tree 73. Kimberly D. Stephen. Greg Kreimer. And at Dirt Road Dems. Thank you so much for being Hall of Fame supporters. All right, Harry, it appears that the Trump administration is targeting Leticia James, the attorney general in New York, that has won several legal battles against Trump, his family, his businesses, his charity. The Associated Press reports in the summer of 2023, New York Attorney General Leticia James helped her niece buy a modest house in Norfolk, Virginia, by becoming a co-borrower on the mortgage loan. She co-signed the loan. A top housing official in the Trump administration has now seized on a document in that transaction to argue that Leticia James should be prosecuted for bank fraud, asking the U.S. Justice Department in a letter to open a criminal investigation into the Democrat. The request for an investigation comes as the administration has pursued campaigns of retribution against Trump's longtime foes in the legal world. James won, as we know, a $454 million judgment against Trump last year in a lawsuit claiming he lied about the value of his assets and apartments on financial statements given to banks. James called the allegations baseless. Quote, "It is nothing more than a headline, nothing more than retaliation against all the actions I have taken successfully against Donald Trump," she said Wednesday in an interview on the New York cable news station NY1.
Yeah, and an April 14th letter to Attorney General Pam Bondi asking for an investigation. U.S. Federal Housing Finance Agency Director William Pulte cited media reports claiming James had falsely listed a home in Virginia as her principal residence, which he hypothesized was an effort to avoid the higher interest rates people often pay for mortgages on second homes. As evidence, Pulte cited a legal form James signed on August 17, 2023, in which she gave her niece, Shamise Thompson Harrison, the authority to sign documents on her behalf in connection with the sale 2 weeks later. Those forms are required when a person involved in buying a house can't be present for closing. That form included a line that says, "I hereby declare that I intend to occupy this property as my principal residence."
Quote, at the time of the 2023 Norfolk, Virginia property purchase and mortgage, Leticia James was the sitting Attorney General of New York and is required by law to have her primary residence in the state of New York, even though her mortgage applications list her intent to have the Norfolk, Virginia property as her primary home. That's what Pulte wrote in the letter asking for an investigation. This is so dumb, okay? And I'll tell you why in a second. James's office, however, shared a partial copy of a loan application in which she appeared to disclose that she did not intend to live in Virginia. On the application, James was asked the question, will you occupy the property as your primary residence? And she checked the box that said no. Quote, Donald Trump's weaponization of the federal government continues to careen out of control, and now they're using cherry-picked information to attack the Attorney General. That's what her office said in a statement. On another part of the loan application, James indicated she was applying for joint credit with Thompson Hairston, who intended to use the home as her primary residence. That kind of arrangement is not uncommon between family members, such as when parents help their children buy a starter home. So, yes, her niece is using it as a primary residence. Leticia James is the co-signer on the loan, and she says she's not intending to live there.
Correct. It is very common where people co-sign that don't even live in that. Whatever. Like this is ridiculous. Real estate lawyers who spoke to the AP, the Associated Press, said it was difficult to tell based on the limited number of documents available publicly whether anything improper had taken place or whether James had tried to deceive anyone about where she intended to live. One Virginia lawyer told the AP that he had never seen a power of attorney form before that had a reference to a primary residence. Pulte also accused James of lying about the number of apartments in New York City in a New York City townhouse she has owned since 2001. Pulte's letter cited a certificate of occupancy issued to a previous owner authorizing up to 5 units in the Brooklyn building where James lives and has rented apartments to some tenants. Multiple other city records indicate that the townhouse has 4 units. But James has indicated in a building permit applications and in mortgage documents for years, this going back to 2001, that the building has 4 units. Past news articles about the buildings has also referred it to having 4 units.
Right. So they found one document where they said 5, which was probably a typo from 2001. And every other single subsequent document says it has 4 units.
For the last 24 years.
Yeah. Pulte speculated James had misrepresented the number of units in order to qualify for federally backed mortgages offering interest rates unavailable to the owners of buildings with more than 4 units. Okay, irony is dead. The Trump administration is accusing Tish James of defrauding banks to get loans by saying that something has 5 units instead of 4 units. What about Trump saying that his apartment was 33,000 square feet when it was actually 10,000 square feet in order to get the banks to give him a bigger loan? Or how many times has the Trump family lied about occupancy in their buildings in order to be able to sell them? So that's just absolutely ridiculous. Experts in New York real estate says discrepancies about the number of units in a building they're not uncommon when property changes hands and typically only draw scrutiny from regulators when the change allows an owner to reap some improper advantage, such as skirting rent regulations. Quote, for regulatory and income generating purposes, going from 5 units to 4 units doesn't help her. So
you're losing a dwelling. You're losing unbelievable.
So that's what Andrew Scheer, a professional at New York Law School, focused on housing law, said. He also went on to say it seems highly unlikely that this kind of difference would in and of itself be legally consequential. James's office said the building has 4 units and noted that the certificate of occupancy listing it has that said 5. That actually predates her ownership of the building. The document that said it had 5 units. It was before she even owned it.
Before she even owned it in 2001.
This reminds me of that Star Trek episode. There are 4 lights. You know?
That's crazy. I mean, this is crazy. You know, I'm just sitting here thinking about this now. And when I record, I'm like, I've contemplated knocking out a wall that connects one of my bedrooms and just losing one bedroom and making it one big one. So, I mean,
That's not going to help you.
It doesn't help you at all. Like,
it lowers the property value.
It's more beneficial for you to have more rooms. Unbelievable, man.
Yeah, in fact, when I sold my Phoenix house, I had knocked down, the master bedroom was on the ground floor, and I thought that was weird. So I knocked down that wall and made the ground floor bigger. And it took me from 4 bedrooms to 3 bedrooms. And so when I went to
decrease the value of your house.
When I went to sell my house, I put that wall back up so I could go back to 4 bedrooms and sell the 4-bedroom house. And I'm sure the next person who came in knocked it down too.
Probably did the same thing
because it was dumb to have down there.
Unbelievable.
But none of that's illegal. And the fact that it was listed as 5 before she even bought it is just dumb.
These people are really grasping at straws. Beginning in July 2023, shortly before the start of Trump's civil fraud trial, the city's Department of Buildings began receiving anonymous complaints claiming James had illegally misclassified the property. Why is she not being prosecuted for fraud and filing false documents when other people have been persecuted for far less crimes? One complaint read. Inspectors within the city's Department of Buildings have found no violations during their most recent visit on Wednesday. An inspection report determined the complaint was unsubstantiated based on department records. Mm-hmm. Trump's lawyers have appealed the judgment that James won against him. The president says he didn't mislead anyone about the value of his properties.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
So is he just bad at math? What was it? An honest mistake? What was it, dude?
And Weisselberg knew that the 10,000 square foot apartment wasn't 33,000 square feet.
Unbelievable.
It's bizarre. It's just bizarre. But that's what they do, right? They accuse other people of the stuff that they have done.
It's called projection.
Yes. Every accusation is a confession. So, oh no, she said there were 5 units. No, she never did. She bought it. It's every single document of hers says 4 units. And the thing she co-signed on a loan for in Norfolk, she said on the paperwork she does not plan to live there. And her niece said on the paperwork, who had power of attorney to sign for it, said that she does intend to occupy the home as a primary residence. So if you have a co-signer on a house and you're the primary resident, you should not be taxed as a second homeowner, right? Like this isn't a second home for her niece. It's a second home for Tish James for sure, but she's just a co-signer on this loan. The actual signatory on the loan is the occupier of the home, and it is their primary residence. It's just so stupid. As most things from this administration,
everything with this administration. So I guess it's right on task or right on track.
Yeah,
this tracks with what the administration does. So
definitely track. All right, as promised, we have some Schadenfreude for you for the Pillowman. Mm-hmm. And also some information on, you remember Joe Biden, right before he left office, he commuted the sentences of death row inmates from death, like being put to death, to life in prison. And when Trump came in, he's like, well, I'm going to make it really, really miserable for you. They're suing. I'm not sure how much of a lawsuit they have here, but we're going to talk about that in a minute. So everybody stick around. We'll be right back.
All right, y'all. Here we are. Welcome back. Let's talk about what we just mentioned before. The 37 death row inmates who had their sentences reduced to life in prison by President Joe Biden on his way out the door. The Independent reports former death row inmates who had their sentences commuted by former President Joe Biden are suing the Trump administration over its plans to send them to a supermax prison. Donald Trump has slammed Biden's decision to commute 37 federal death sentences to life in prison without parole on numerous occasions. A commutation allowed the death row inmates to avoid execution, but they are instead serving life sentences. Trump ordered earlier this year that the prisoners be held in conditions consistent with the monstrosity of their crimes and threats they pose.
Okay. 21 of the prisoners said in Wednesday's court filing that following Trump's order, they were heading to the ADX prison in Florence, Colorado, where they would face, quote, the most oppressive conditions in the entire federal prison system, according to the Post. According to the Federal Bureau of Prisons, ADX is, quote, a unique facility designed to house inmates who pose the greatest risk to staff, other inmates, and the public. The lawsuit was filed in the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia and argued that the prisoners are concerned they may be moved from an Indiana federal facility next week. If the plan continues, the death row inmates would move to Colorado at the famed prison that was home to Oklahoma City bomber Timothy McVeigh, the Unabomber Theodore Ted Kaczynski, and the shoe bomber Richard Reed. So this is interesting on a couple of levels, because I don't think you can call the ADX supermax prison cruel and unusual punishment, because it exists and people are there. I think what the plaintiffs are saying here is that we've been good enough as death row inmates to be housed in this Indiana facility, for example. And so we aren't inmates who posed greater risks to staff, other inmates, or the public. But maybe an argument could be made that they are, simply because they were going to be sentenced to death. So I'm really interested to see how this goes, and where this lawsuit takes us, because, yeah, I mean, if you're going to send him to Seacoast, yeah, that's illegal, right?
Yeah,
but,
I wonder that. Yeah, you're right, because this isn't. Yeah, what if they were a threat? If they weren't a threat before, what makes them a threat now? I guess that's what it was. And they said they want to put them in conditions, quote, in conditions consistent with the monstrosity of their crimes and the threats they pose.
Like, why weren't they there before?
Like, I mean, and also the thing that comes to mind, because I think about prison reform and everything like that, is he want them in, like, you know, shitty ass places? I mean, like, conditions consistent. I mean, this was the same guy that said the January 6ers were sitting in a gulag. Like,
I know.
Like, so I mean, like, what are we doing here? If that's the case, send them to DC. I mean, I'm not calling for them to be put anywhere, but, you know, let's just be very fair across the board. Like I said, if they weren't a threat before, what makes them a threat now? So I'm really anxious to see how this plays out, and I think this will a lot of be the warden is going to have to. We're going to learn a lot about this warden, whoever is called to testify when this goes forward, because or whoever oversees these 37 men and women or women. So.
But I do think the Bureau of Prisons probably has broad authority to move prisoners to whatever prison they want to move them to.
Correct.
So,
but does it have to be,
when
you say broad authority, does that mean with reason, without, or just, hey, we're overstaffed here, put you over?
It's probably vague and up to the courts to determine, you know, if it's reasonable authority to move them. Like, for example, when they wanted to move trans women to men's facilities, a court stepped in and said, no, that's cruel and unusual punishment. Even though the Bureau of Prisons has broad authority to move prisoners from here to there, this is specifically to harm these particular plaintiffs. We'll see if the same sort of issue is found here in this case, but I'm assuming that the bar is pretty high, right?
You would think so.
So we'll see. We'll follow it for you. Also, Harry, we don't have any Rudy news today.
Oh,
but I did leave the best story for you. I saved the best.
This is a good one. This is a good one.
It's a little bit of schadenfreude to take us out today.
All right, let's do it. So, from a local CBS affiliate, MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell told a federal judge Wednesday he has no money to pay thousands of dollars in sanctions imposed in one of the long-running lawsuits against him over his false election fraud claims. During a court hearing, Lindell said he and his company faced a combined $70 million in debt and ongoing garnishments by the IRS.
Aww.
Quote, nobody will borrow me anymore. Not one dime, Lindell said. I'm in ruins.
So no one will borrow me any money? You mean lend?
Lend you any money.
Is that a common phrase? I'm going to ask the listeners.
Is
that a common phrase from a certain part of the country, a regional dialect or a colloquialism to say nobody will borrow you money? Because I've never heard it, but maybe it's a thing, you know, like
I've never heard it either.
I used to ask
black people, we borrow money all the time from people.
when I was a kid, instead of asking my dad to carry me, I would ask him to heavy me. Will you heavy me over there?
Did you say that? Heavy me?
Heavy me, Dad. Heavy me. And so maybe borrow me money is a common phrase. I honestly don't know. So if you're from a part of the country where that's a common colloquialism, I'd love to. I know we're not the Way with Words podcast, but I would love to hear about it because I'm really interested in the language. I just thought that was interesting. No one will borrow me money anymore.
It's funny.
Now, last month, the voting systems company Smartmatic asked a federal judge in D.C. to hold Mike Lindell in civil contempt over his failure to pay more than $50,000 in sanctions for filing a frivolous counterclaim in a defamation suit brought by a separate company, Dominion Voting Systems. Lindell is facing lawsuits in both D.C. and Minnesota for allegedly using his connection to President Donald Trump and his continued false claims about fraud in the 2020 election to boost MyPillow's sales. In its lawsuit filed in 2021, Dominion said Lindell continued to, quote, sell the lie because the lie sells pillows.
This is real. Like that is real. Unbelievable.
Yeah, because the pillows suck. So you got to sell a lie along with them so you get a little something on. Anyway.
That's insane. Lindell has said in court filings that at one point his company was generating as much as $300 million in annual revenue. On Wednesday, he claimed he is now living off $1,000 a week because of what he described as a campaign of lawfare against him. I don't have $5,000 or 5 cents, Lindell said.
Oh, neither.
Well, that's a big difference between 5 cents and 5 cents. U.S. District Judge Carl Nichols, a Trump appointee who is presiding over Dominion's defamation case against Lindell, said he would need to see financial documents from MyPillow and Lindell before ruling on Smartmatic's motion. He gave Lindell until the end of the week to provide those to him in a sealed filing.
To provide them in a pillowcase.
Okay, that was hilarious. Wouldn't that be funny? Shows up. There are top secret pillowcases.
Like, you said you wanted it sealed, Judge.
Unbelievable.
Wednesday's hearing was just the latest in a string of legal troubles for the Pillowman. Last month, a federal judge in Minnesota found him in contempt of court for failing to turn over discovery in Smartmatic's ongoing defamation case against him. The company says it has suffered billions of dollars in damages from Lindell's false claims that it was involved in a conspiracy to steal the 2020 election. And as of Wednesday, no trial date had been set in that case. But it might be like if you're going after him for anything, like you go after Newsmax, you get $40 million. You go after Fox, you get $787.5 million. You go after Lindell, you get some pillows, I guess, because he doesn't
might get some pillows.
He doesn't have anything left. But,
Zero.
He's also not complying with discovery orders about what his net worth is and where all his money is, much like somebody else.
I was just about to say, this sounds very reminiscent of our friend there, AG.
Yes, it does.
It sounds very reminiscent of this guy we know.
Yeah. And do you remember also that Mike Lindell was ordered to pay a software engineer $5 million? After he responded to a challenge, a bet.
Oh, yeah.
To prove that Lindell's claims about manipulated voting machines were false, right? But Lindell bet.
Yeah.
He's like, I'll give you $5 million if you could prove me wrong. And a software engineer came and proved him wrong and asked for his $5 million, and Lindell wouldn't give it. So the guy sued and won. And Lindell appealed that decision. And the Eighth Circuit Court of Appeals heard arguments in the case in October. And they haven't yet ruled. So that's the normal order of stuff that happens that's the speed of the appellate court. Usually this was heard in October and it's April and there's still no decision. That's why when, Judge Sini's and all this stuff with Abrego Garcia and all the discovery happening in 2 weeks, we're like, wow, that's fast.
It's insane. It's lightning speed the way that it's going. Because,
in the normal and the regular order of business, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, 6 months ago. And we're still waiting for a decision in that case. And again, that's the $5 million that he owes on the bet that he lost, which is so funny.
Yeah, he lost that bet. Yeah, I remember that happening. Yeah, that was... but it's expected from a loser like that. So,
yeah. Well, we will keep an eye on all of this and more. I'm very interested to see what happens in the Abrego Garcia case. There's a huge fast, like I said, discovery going on, 2-week discovery, and the government's already screwed that up and failed. So they're asking for a hearing today from Judge Sini's on Tuesday. The Abrego Garcia lawyers are, because remember, they were like, you have to give 15 interrogatories and the government has to answer those questions by April 21st. They got them and they're wrong and they misquote the Supreme Court and they have a bunch of errors in there. So we're following that over on the Unjustified podcast, which you can hear more about this Sunday with me and Andy McCabe. But there's a lot going on, and we really appreciate you tuning in. And again, big thanks to our patrons. And I had such a blast on Friday during the happy hour.
Definitely. That was fun. It's always fun. And, I was driving. I had to pull over in the parking lot because I was on my way to go get cocktails. But I wouldn't have missed it for the world. So I was like, you know what? I can do this. You know, I don't have to be sitting in front of my computer. So I took it from the car in the park. That's right. I road dogged it. But it's always fun. Like you say, you get there. And, you know, AG and I, we don't have all the answers. And, you know, we don't have even all the viewpoints. And it's lovely being able to hear everyday people's thoughts. I mean, we're everyday people.
Yeah, we're all.
But hearing other everyday people's thoughts.
Now I have to go listen to Arrested Development.
Everyday people.
Take me to a better place. Take me to a better land.
Yes,
what is that?
Oh, man.
Tennessee.
Yeah. Tennessee. No, I mean, it's just great being able to just talk to people. And that's one of my favorite things to do is talk to people. And actually, that brings me in when you depending on when you're listening to this on Wednesday or if you get it early on Tuesday. I'll be in the air Wednesday morning, flying to Tulsa and doing a keynote event out there for the Democrats in Tulsa on the backdrop of Black Wall Street. So I'm really excited.
Oh, yeah.
I'll be doing a walking tour of Black Wall Street and also being out there to fire up Democratic voters. I
remember when Trump held one of his racist rallies on the 99th anniversary of Black Wall Street.
Yeah. And it's insane. And like I said, the history is not lost on me what's going there. And I'm just truly honored and excited to be there.
That's awesome.
So that's coming up. I'll be flying out Wednesday morning. So wish me safe travels. And I'm excited to be headed out there, continuing to do the Lord's work.
Heck yeah. One more question before we get out of here today for you with this Hegseth stuff. You had a couple of meetings, or at least one meeting, right, with a senator about Hegseth. Remind us who you met with and what they said.
So I met with Lisa Murkowski. But
so she voted against Hegseth, right?
Yeah. I think Mitch McConnell did also, and Collins. I think, and everybody's now pointing the finger at Tillis, but
Tillis and Ernst.
And Joni Ernst, because she flipped.
They were both flipped, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think one of the things, like I said, I went. My biggest thing was trying to stop Kash Patel, but obviously when I had her ear, I was like, let's talk about some other things too. And I try not to talk about things that I am not a subject matter expert on. I'm not a military guy, and I don't know veterans. I know enough, right? Hell, I probably know more than Hegseth. I'm about to say we're just as qualified, right? No, but she listened, she expressed her concerns, and I'm glad that she had the wherewithal to vote against that. But I also asked her to share my concerns with some of the other people who might be on the fence, and I think Susan Collins was one of them also. So listen, like I said earlier in the show, I think it's important that we put the blame also on these senators who did. This wasn't just Trump alone. This wasn't just Hegseth. There were people that allowed him to get to this point that he couldn't have got to this point without. And those are the 50 plus senators who voted to confront him. All the Republicans who voted to confirm him.
Because this is one of those instances where every single Democrat voted against.
Voted no. Which even I saw somebody posting online. They say even Fetterman voted against this guy. This must have been bad.
Fetterman says no.
If Fetterman
take
says
the hint,
no, wow, it got to be bad. So that's problematic, and they own it. They own it, and we need to make sure they remember that at the ballot box in 2026.
Yep, then we will be there with bells on. I love these protests. We're going to build these up, build them until we get to the summer 2026. So thanks for sharing all of the signs from the April 19th No Kings rallies across the country for 50501. That built on the one that we saw on the Hands Off on April 5th, which built on the Tesla takedown stuff, which built on this empty chair town halls. We just got to keep it rolling. And remember, don't just go to the protest. Sign up, give your email, put yourself in contact with your local indivisible group or your local 50501, local grassroots, local campaigns for the House districts where you're at, so that you have your contact information is entered into the grassroots system, so that when the clarion call goes out for the big one in 2026, we have a massive grassroots list of folks to reach out to support. And that goes for all sorts of things too. So appreciate you and keep sending those photos. Love some of the signs that we're seeing out at these protests. But again, remember to sign up with organizations, grassroots organizations that are helping to connect us all for future stuff. That's how we build.
Yeah, it is. And you are going to get a bunch of emails. You're going to get people asking you for money. It's the nature of the beast, and it sucks. But, participate in the manners that you can, whether you can give, even if you can't give, get out there, keep on protesting with signs, knock doors, phone bank, send out mailers. There's a role for everybody. And actually, I just wrote a Substack about it yesterday. What day is this? Monday. So if you all are able to check that out, it's an action-driven post about what you can do. And I think that's what we all need to focus on, what we can do right now.
Love it. All right, everybody, we're going to be back in your ears this weekend for patrons for the bonus episode and back in your ears next Wednesday for the public episode. Sorry about the swear words that slipped out today. We try to save those for the bonus episodes, but there's just so much effed up S going on that we that we have to holy forking shirt balls it all day. But we appreciate you and we appreciate you listening. And we'll see you next week. I'm Allison Gill.
Harry Dunn. Thanks, y'all.
Cleanup on Aisle 45 is written, researched, and produced by Allison Gill, with editing by Molly Hockey. Our art and logo design are by Joelle Reeder and Moxie Design Studios, and our music is composed and performed by Adam Orr. Cleanup on Aisle 45 is a proud member of the MSW Media Network, a collection of creator-owned podcasts dedicated to news, politics, and justice. For more information, visit mswmedia.com. MSW Media.